So I want to make a major announcement. So in my efforts to make an impact in this state over the last few years as a concerned citizen, with the help of so many people in this state, and so many people, you know, who've been a blessing to me, a blessing to the movement, and we've all been able to do so much of this together. I've really seen what a difference just a small handful of votes can make in the Maine legislature. You know, this year alone, a few votes made the difference, were the difference between defeating the sales tax increase or not. A few votes were the difference between sustaining the governor's veto against expanding Obamacare or not. In the Maine House of Representatives, a single vote was the difference between passing constitutional carry or not. So that's why, with the encouragement of friends and family and members of the community, you know, I've made the decision myself to seek to become one of those votes that makes a difference in the legislature. So today, surrounded by friends like yourself, I'm declaring my campaign for Maine State Senate to represent the towns of Auburn, New Gloucester, Poland, Maine, and Mechanic Falls, right next door. I hope I can join, you know, great legislators up there in the Senate like Garrett Mason. So it's not a decision that I make lightly at all. I've talked to a lot of people. I've you know, Lois Nomello can tell you I've gone over this a lot. We've had a lot of conversations about it. And I think it's going to be a monumental undertaking. But I really think that this is going to be an important campaign, because this is going to be a campaign to restore Maine's future. So it's no secret to anyone who knows me or anyone who even looks at me. Now, I'm a young person. On election day 2014, I'll be 26 years old. I think that would make me the youngest person currently to serve in the Maine State Senate. I think Garrett Mason might hold that record now, but I think maybe I might. I don't know. When did you get? How old were you when you got elected, Garrett? 25. 25. Okay, so Garrett will have the record and he'll beat me out if I manage to get there. But these young perspectives are really perspectives that we need. Doesn't everyone here agree that the current makeup of perspectives in Augusta isn't working?
Yep. Yes.
So, I represent the generation of Mainers that government no longer works for. I represent the generation of Mainers that is going to be paying off for the rest of our lives the foolhardy decisions of the last 40 years. Let me ask you, how many people here remember the Maine of 40 years ago? Now, I certainly wasn't alive for it, so I don't remember it firsthand, but I remember it through the stories of those who did live it. You know, 40 years ago, Maine was a very different state. 40 years ago, you could earn an education, find a successful career, and raise a family here in Maine. Today, we put our kids on the bus the moment they receive a degree, shipping them off to other states where they can find a job and raise a family elsewhere. 40 years ago, this was a state where my grandfather was able to send 3 kids to college on his wages as a sheet metal worker in New Gloucester. Today, a student takes on tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to get a college degree, and then they can't even find a job to earn a living and pay off those debts afterwards. Many of them are moving into their parents' basements. 40 years ago, we had industry here in Maine. We had jobs, we had opportunity, and today, all those opportunities have gone elsewhere. So what changed? What happened 40 years ago to turn our Maine into such a different place to live? What do you think it was?
Democrats.
Well, if you said it was the political decisions and the political culture of our state, I would agree with you 100%. Before 1969, state government in Maine was small. Spending was under control, and you could live your life without answering to busybodies in the state bureaucracy. Best of all, the state of Maine had no income tax. Imagine that. The fruits of your labor actually belonged to you, and you got to use them how you saw fit. What a novel idea. Maybe we should bring it back. But about 40 years ago, the political culture of our state began to change. One of the first signs of this occurred in 1969. Does anyone know what happened in that year, 1969, here in the state? In 1969, for the first time, the state of Maine adopted an income tax. We began taxing people for being productive. After that, it was all downhill from there. There was another big event that took place in the state just a little while later in 1974. Does anyone know what that was? 1974. That's when the Democrat Party took control of the Maine House of Representatives and John Martin became Speaker of the House. Until that point, Maine had been a traditionally Republican state. And since then, fiscal responsibility has been unable to get a lasting foothold back in state government. in the 4 decades that followed since 1974.